I really, really miss the headphone jack.
I really, really like AirPods, and so I'm okay with the headphone jack being gone.
So I have a headphone jack now, so I'm really smug about it. I switched from iPhone to Android. It wasn't the #1 reason that I decided to do that, but the headphone jack was important to me.
Now I have to have this stupid dongle that I've lost literally 3 times in order to listen to my music, and I'm not buying the whole AirPods thing. I refuse.
I mostly use Bluetooth headphones, so it's actually not a huge impact to me, but still isn't an irritation. If my headphones were dead and I also wanted to charge my phone, I could never do that, and I don't like being in that situation.
It's just the security of knowing, okay, if it did fall out of my ears, it's not gonna go rolling down the subway or something. It's like, okay, still attached to my phone if my headphones drop out.
Remember how you would move your arm and just knock the earphones out of your ears? And then sometimes you get them caught on a door handle as you were walking into a room. If we had to sacrifice the headphone jack to get AirPods, which I don't think is what we had to do, but if that's what we had to do, then it was a great trade.
I just don't understand why tech companies want us to choose. Just give us what we want. We didn't ask for foldable screens, we asked for headphone jacks. It's so simple.
We got rid of the headphone jack so that Apple could sell more iPhones and AirPods. That is why it is gone. I know that a lot of people are very upset about it, but I have AirPods, I'm good.
AOL Instant Messaging. AIM was an instant messaging platform.
AIM is basically text messaging before text messaging was a thing.
I remember the sound of getting a notification though, that's embedded in my head. Wait, now it's ding, what was it
Oh, I remember Smarter Child.
Yes, Smarter Child. It got really scary. I feel like I would try to flirt with him and see if he was interested.
I actually had maybe 4 AIM usernames. XXX, Pretty in Pink XX.
Cole Sprouse Forever with the 4, that was me.
Cheer Diva Al12. I wasn't a diva, I don't know why, that was part of my screen name.
Fire Sparks 14.
Sweet Chick 130693.
And then I was also Bolts999.
Swordscape 40, because that was the name I used for RuneScape.
Joe Jonas Lover, 1996. And I would leave away messages, depending on who he was dating. I'd be like, I don't like you, Taylor Swift, or I don't like you, Demi Lovato. Something ridiculous, as if they would see my AIM away message.
If a boy liked me, he would write Danny, heart, 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 as his status so that everyone knew.
Insert whatever emo song was popular when I was 12, and that was definitely part of it.
People really express themselves with their away messages.
At my school, it was really important that you put in all the names of your friends that are in a clique.
What was it, buddy lists? It was best friends, friends. Oh yeah, I moved people off my best friends list to the friends list.
And sometimes, they would let a girl know you didn't make the cut anymore by taking her out of everyone else's AIM profile.
AIM was the best way to get bullied. People would make these group chats and invite me into them, and then they would start saying nasty things.
I probably catfished people on AIM.
Teenage drama, friends, love, all the things were on AIM.
After school got out, it's that's how you could talk to your friends.
We would go home, immediately get on AIM and start talking to each other for hours.
I remember that adrenaline rush, rushing back to my computer to see what my crush might have said or something like that.
AIM was a key part of my adolescence. I think I met a girlfriend on AIM.
It was pre-BBM, texting, Facebook messaging. It was really the first way of feeling instantly connected.
Vine, rest in peace, was a very wonderful video making app, and I miss it.
Rip Vine. It's just part of millennial Gen Z culture. Quoting Vines is something that people my age just can do.
It was a big part of my personality, growing up in high school. I think everyone quoted Vines. Genuinely, a big part of my high school experience was going to my friend's house and spending hours watching Vines.
God knows I still end up at 2 in the morning watching Vine compilations.
Hey Tara, you want some?
Just the spontaneity of the soda can getting tossed across the hallway and the use of yeet that proliferated culture after that. Truly inspiring.
Road work ahead. Yeah, I sure hope it does.
There was a very loyal fan base behind Vine, and a lot of people very upset that it went away. I remember when I heard about Vine for the first time, I was like, what the heck are people gonna do with 6-second videos? Like, what could you accomplish in 6 seconds? That's so stupid.
You only have 6 seconds to make a joke. Unless you're really funny, it was hard to make Vines.
Well, I think Vine really challenged a lot of people to get creative and condense their humor down into such a format where everything has to matter in that 6 seconds and every joke has to land. My favorite Vine is Back at It Again at Krispy Kreme.
Back at it again at Krispy Kreme.
Moviepass is something I wanted so deeply to work.
I did have Moviepass, and I used it for like a bit of the summer, and then it was like, we suck, and we don't work anymore.
Moviepass was a way to see basically as many movies as you want in a week. When I heard about Moviepass, I signed myself up, I signed my roommate up, and I signed my boyfriend at the time up. I saw every movie that was in theaters. You saw movies you didn't really want to see because why not? It was free. I feel like everyone you knew had Moviepass for a hot second.
Great, makes sense. I see a movie every single week. This is a bargain. I live in New York City. Going to the movies costs almost $20. This couldn't be cheaper. They certainly aren't making money, so I have to get in now.
It was like being a teenager again when your parents are paying for you to go to the movies.
I saved a lot of money through Moviepass until it was demolished.
I probably saw at least 3 movies a week. They were literally just giving you money to go see a movie. Give me an inch, I will take the whole Oscar lineup.
And I abused it to no end. I saw Black Panther 4 times using my Moviepass, and they made the rule that you could only see a movie one time, like the next week. Okay, like I'm convinced that Black Panther is the reason they had to make that rule.
At its peak, I watched every single movie in the theater.
I wanted it to last forever, and even when it started to die, I clung for too long.
Usually when things are too good to be true, it is too good to be true. That's, I think, the biggest lesson I learned from Moviepass.
The last 2 months I had Moviepass, where I was arguing with myself on a daily basis, do I still have this? Does it make sense for me to keep this? But it was such a terrible service. It didn't do anything that I wanted from it, and I ended up not seeing any movies towards the end of it.
And I think you can't ignore Moviepass just because it really started this whole subscription phase. These subscription services that are so convenient to use now would not be around if it wasn't for Moviepass.
Blockbuster was a place where they stored Netflix movies on tape.
Blockbuster was my family's one of our greatest traditions. That was the best surprise ever when my dad was like, we're going to Blockbuster.
If the one copy of the video you wanted to watch was not at Blockbuster, you could drive another 10 or 15 minutes to a Hollywood Video.
Blockbuster was an amazing, magical place to go when you're a 10-year-old kid in the middle of nowhere. Felt so expansive and oh my gosh, there's so many movies. I could watch any movie that I want.
And you walk around and you're looking at all the boxes and seeing which ones look cool. And for me, it was what kind of Inspector Gadget movie do they have?
I only rented Mary-Kate and Ashley movies.
I would go straight, make a beeline to the kids section, and then find my movie while my parents would be in their section picking out whatever new release they wanted to watch.
And then at the checkout, pick out a Nerd's Rope or a chocolate or whatever they had at the time. That experience of going with a family member, loved one, to a place like that and being able to bond over those things is not replaceable. Our brains are now wired in the binge mode. One movie's not enough, one episode's not enough. I'd have to go to Blockbuster every day for it.
Oh, well now I'm definitely team Netflix.
Netflix, if I had to choose one, but I feel there could have been an ecosystem where they both existed.
I miss Blockbuster, but that's okay. Netflix is great.
MP3 players are better CD players or better tape players. Do people still know what those are?
Yeah, I remember specifically upgrading from my CD player that I hand decorated with rhinestones in 3rd grade and listened to the SpongeBob SquarePants movie soundtrack on. But I remember all the cool kids on the bus on field trips had iPod Touches.
I used to have a CD player. It was a good CD player. I remember it had all these little stickers on it that said never skips or barely skips or something. And that was the best we could hope for. It sometimes skipped and that was fine.
I just constantly wanted a new one. I mean, the thing with the iPod MP3 players, if you look at Classic, Touch, and Nano, all of them were extremely different. There was a reason to switch. Very early on, most MP3 players were mostly the same, I think. So I didn't really switch around and I stuck with one for a long time.
I think MP3 players are flawed because they only have one function, but only because we live in the world now where you expect it to do so much more. At the time that they were created, it was mind-blowing, genuinely mind-blowing. This holds all the music?
And then iPhone sort of made every MP3 players useless.
A BlackBerry is kind of like a mini computer.
BlackBerry is like the saddest version of a smartphone.
BlackBerry was my first smartphone, and I remember being so cool that I could get internet and Brick Breaker, like RIP Brick Breaker. BlackBerry was, I think, the first smartphone that everybody used.
Now you have the luxury of being like, oh, it would be like if iPhones were, half as cool.
Everyone had a BlackBerry, and I was begging my parents to get me one. My favorite part was BBM, which was the BlackBerry Messenger. I loved pinging people. It was almost like a poke on Facebook, but a bit more aggressive because you would ping them and it would send them a ping in all caps with a bunch of exclamation marks. And to this day, I still text people the word ping.
My BlackBerry that I had in college was like the first phone I had that like did anything other than make phone calls. Like it had a full keyboard and like honestly what feels now like the world's tiniest screen, but at the time was huge. It was amazing. I was like, I'm basically like a Wall Street hedge fund manager because I have a BlackBerry. I can answer emails and send text messages. I'm so chill. I'm gonna wear this blazer to class and everyone's gonna know I'm fancy. Insane.
Amazon dash buttons were something that I still have a few of. I still kind of use them, but they're kind of dying. The way that they wanted people to use it was like, you stick your Tide Pod thing to your washing machine, so when you go, oh, I'm out of Tide Pods, boop, it orders it automatically.
I think Amazon saw it as a way of customer lock-in and convenience. Just tap it and we'll send you more. And so it's just a very kind of sticky way to keep your customer base.
And there's something really nice about the physical and the digital interacting with each other in that kind of like George Jetson kind of way.
Amazon found that like customers were using other avenues. Like people, I think, were using Amazon Alexa because you can use your Alexa. People were also using the subscribe and save option.
Opening the app or opening it on a web browser is super easy. This is just one extra easy step, and I like easy. MagSafe is a technology in which Mac laptops were able to charge with a power cord that magnetically connected instead of actually having to stick something in.
I guess it's MagSafe because it's both magnetic and safe. The cord just comes off, your laptop stays on the table, there's no accidents, there's no danger of that getting knocked over. Apple, in their sort of infinite wisdom, decided to go away from the MagSafe for USB-C, which is great. USB-C is great, but it doesn't need to be every single port. In fact, I don't have one of the newer MacBooks because of it.
The best thing about Blockbuster, though, was just going and not knowing what you wanted. If you don't know what you want on Netflix, it is chaos. You just feel desperate. I get the autoplay coming at me, and it's just, stop.